In this video, I really want to talk about two major takeaways, things that I have just learned by reading through a lot of different bass fishing studies. If you guys have watched this channel, if you've watched my other channel, Bass Fishing HQ, you know that I love looking into these studies. I love looking through all the jargon, the scientific jargon, to kind of come away with some major conclusions about bass themselves. So in this video, I'm going to talk about two of those. Now, before we get into it, this one's brought to you by my apparel company, Fin Fishing. Right now, for the month of October 2024, I am running a package deal over on the website. You can get a USA-made sun shirt, any of them, and a bass hat with a wooden bass badge for $67. So it's real easy. All you got to do, select the sun shirt that you want and the size, select the hat that you want. You will see that automatic discount at checkout. Shopping at Fin Fishing is surely the best way to help support the channel. I greatly appreciate all of you who have done so. All right, let's talk about some of these kind of major takeaways. And these are things that you, if you've watched my other channels, you may have heard, but I just think it's so important to continue to bring this up because it really can help you out there to just get a few extra bites. Now, the one thing that I always find fascinating, and I actually read about this a long time ago, like when I was a teenager, and even more so I see it in more and more studies that I look at, especially when they are tracking studies, is that bass, a lot of bass have a home range. This is something that you see all the time. And I find it so intriguing because I remember, you know, even like throughout a lot of tournament fishing, you think about all the bass in your lake kind of moving from one general zone of the lake to another as they go through kind of their transitions and through their seasonal patterns. And there's definitely bass that do that. There's bass that will go from a main lake ledge to the back of a pocket and all the way back to a main lake ledge, maybe swim all the way down to the dam of your lake and maybe all of a sudden go up the river. There are bass that do that, but the majority of bass that have been studied through tracking have home ranges. They have a general area where they like to stay. And if you think about it, it really just makes sense. It really comes down to cover and food. If bass have the cover that can protect them and can allow them to ambush and feed, and they have the food, there's no real reason for them to leave. So those areas of your lake that always, no matter what season of the year it is, provide some kind of those two main things, some cover and some food, can always be good. And not only that, because I'm a tournament angler, there have been a lot of times where I have found fish during a practice period, maybe a day or 2 days before. You go there during the tournament and it seems like the fish are nowhere to be found. And that's happened to me a lot. But what I've learned more times than not is that bass simply move pretty close by. They don't always make these humongous movements. You know, I've talked about this story before, but a long time ago, I was fishing the Bassmaster Opens on the Harris Chain of Lakes down in Florida. And the first day of this tournament, first of all, I had a terrible practice. The first day of this tournament, though, I got one big bite. It clued me into this general area where there was a lot of bass, and ended up catching a good limit on the first day in this one little area, like within a 50-yard stretch. And so I come back the next day really wanting to soak in this area. And I spent time fishing the area and I caught a limit, but it was not of the same size. I was not catching the same size fish. I weighed in over 15 pounds the first day. I came back, I caught a limit and I had like 7 pounds. Like I had all just barely keepers for the most part. And I didn't really understand it because I felt like fish were in that area. But what I ended up finding out later in the day, once I just kind of like opened my eyes, is that I was fishing kind of an offshore area where there were some scattered hydrilla clumps. And literally 20 yards, 30 yards from where I was fishing, you kind of had this small pocket where there was a bunch of pads in there. And I had not fished in those pads or anything like that. And it just dawned on me that maybe the fish, we had a couple of warmer nights, maybe the fish that I was catching the day before, the little bit better quality ones, just moved up. And lo and behold, I moved up. I ended up catching every fish that I weighed in that day out of the pads that were only, like they were 30 yards away. And it doesn't seem like a long ways away, and it really isn't. But it was enough that I just didn't even think about going in these pads. And so anyways, bass have home ranges. Like there's fish that are going to live in certain areas year round. And it may be a smaller area than you think. I know, just real quick before I touch on the second part of this video that I want to talk about is the big bass that was on the Toledo Bend study that I did. That video kind of blew up over on BassFishingHQ, and there was an 8-pound bass that basically stayed in the back of this creek in extremely shallow water for a number of months, basically all until he was caught by an angler. And so it really just blew my mind that this fish, even though it was like past June in the year, was still in the back of this pocket. So bass aren't always going to make movements, and sometimes it helps me because what I like to do, if I'm struggling to figure out the fish, I like to go to areas of the lake that I know historically produce bass, because more than likely there's a group of fish somewhere in that area. I just got to figure out where exactly they are. They may not be in the exact same place that they always are. They may just be a little bit further away. So it's just something that I always find intriguing. It's something that has helped me out on the water. Now, the second big thing that I have talked about on this channel and on Bass Fishing HQ, which really blows my mind too, is that how powerful bass's sense of smell is. And I think growing up, you know, I always wondered, does scent make a difference or not? And over the years of me using baits that have scent and baits that don't have scent, I think there are a lot of days out on the water where it simply does not matter. It doesn't matter if your jig that you're using has some sort of scent on it in comparison to another jig or a moving bait or whatever the lure it is that you're using. I think that there are days you can use one that is packed with scent and one that has zero scent, and the bass are going to eat them the exact same way. But it's on the days where bass are a little bit more lethargic that I think scent plays a humongous deal. And they could be lethargic for a number of reasons. Maybe they are highly pressured. Maybe it's really cold water. Maybe it's really hot water. Whatever it may be, sometimes bass just get in these moods. And so if they see your bait come by, say you're fishing some sort of soft plastic and they see your bait come by, maybe it visually stimulates them. Obviously, through their lateral line, they're going to feel it. And they may have seen other baits just like that, and they may approach that bait, but we don't know. I mean, you can see it a lot of times with forward-facing sonar, but not all the time. We don't know how many bass often are approaching our baits and then just turn away, you know? And so adding scent to your baits, I feel like, is never a negative thing, as long as it's the right scent. That's another big thing. As long as it is the right scent, I think that it's never a bad thing to add it to your baits, because there are days where it just having a olfactoral stimulant, I don't know if that's a word, if they smell it, that might just be the one extra cue that they need to eat it. And so I'm a true believer in scent. You know, I keep bait fuel with me all the time. I like to use baits that I know have scent in them. So anyways, guys, those are kind of two big takeaways when it comes to bass fishing that I always find very interesting, and I just wanted to share with you. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to check out that fin gear, and I will see you guys tomorrow.